Well, they say the more tools possible to fight the coronavirus, the better. But yes, they need children to get their first and second dose of the vaccine first and then get their booster so that they can have all the protection necessary to fight the coronavirus. But already, hospitals like Legacy tell us that they are seeing the toll that these variants are taking on children.
What we're seeing nationally is that lots of kids are being infected right now with Omicron and with Delta. And that's, if you infect millions of children, a number of them are going to have to go to the hospital.
All across the country, hospital beds are filling up, many of them occupied by young patients fighting the coronavirus. For more than a year, scientists have said the virus didn't really impact young patients, but with Omicron making the rounds, that's starting to change in many places, but not in Oregon.
And it feels that our clinical experience with pediatrics really hasn't changed. We're still seeing the same numbers and the severity of diseases. So right now, Omicron does not feel much different than what we were experiencing with Delta.
Dr. Don Nault is a professor of pediatric infectious diseases at OHSU. While thankfully the increase in child Omicron cases has been low in Oregon so far, she and other doctors say it's too soon to breathe a sigh of relief.
When they are affected, they can be affected severely. I'm happy that the majority of children will just get the sniffles, but when a child is affected, it's devastating.
Because while many children aren't coming into the hospital, those that are critically ill.
They can be in my ICU on a ventilator. Some of them need continuous infusions to support their hearts that are failing. It's really scary. And, frankly, I've even had kids who've been on heart-lung bypass for several weeks to support them through this illness. And many of these children were previously healthy. And, the parents, frankly, just thought that it would never happen to them.
Doctors say that they are pushing vaccination now because things are only going to get worse before they get better. Tonight on K2 News at 6, we're going to take a look at the vaccination numbers that we're seeing in Washington and Oregon. I'll see you in an hour. Well, so Deb, right now we want to take you live to a scene. We're on North Houghton and Portsmouth in North Portland, and it's a little difficult to see, but there is a car that has crashed into a power line here in the area, and that has caused more than 2,000 outages in this area. And it's a very cold night, so this is definitely concerning for some neighbors. Now, we don't know at this point whether this crash that you're looking at right here is weather related, but according to Oregon State Police, we have seen a huge increase in crashes from over the holiday weekend. They tell us that they had more than 900 reported just over this past weekend. And if you compare that to 2020's numbers, they say they only had about 300 crashes then. And it's not just in the state, it's also locally right here in Portland. We were told that over the weekend there was 111 crashes. And if you compare that to the year before, there was only 83. Pictures of abandoned, crashed, and stuck cars are all over Oregon agencies' social media pages. Oregon State Police shared this tweet today, saying troopers are extremely busy responding to crashes. While snow and ice can take the majority of the blame for these situations, troopers say speed is also a contributing factor.
The one thing in my entire career that everybody wishes right before they crash or slide into the ditch is that they were going slower. That's the one thing everybody wishes for.
ODOT crews are working around the clock to de-ice and plow roads, but treating ice is tricky. They're echoing OSP's warning to slow down, but with more people on the roads, more crashes are likely.
I think it's just there's that pent-up demand to really go just spend time with our friends and family. So that coupled with the weather, I think is a pretty good indication of why we have more crashes.
With another round of inclement weather coming with this New Year's Eve holiday, law enforcement agencies want to remind people now of the risk they take every time they choose to get into their car this winter.
Everybody needs to just have, realize that they're responsible for their safety, the safety of the people in their vehicle, and the other motoring public. So it's their responsibility to go out and be prepared, have the things that they need.
Now back live out here in North Portland, we want to say again, we are not sure exactly what caused this crash that you see here behind me that has knocked out power for thousands of people in North Portland. We have reached out to Portland Police and we are waiting for more information from Portland General Electric. But again, we know that thousands are without power tonight in a very, very cold overnight temperature.
As 2021 draws to a close, a lot of Portlanders hope next year brings with it an end to a seemingly unending wave of gun violence. 2021 set records for shooting deaths, injuries, and overall shootings in Portland. The numbers topping the record set just last year. For this year, police reported 69 gun-related deaths, 385 injuries, and 1,279 total shootings. Those figures are between 3 and 4 times what the city saw just 2 years ago. The Multnomah County District Attorney's Office is one agency that's adding manpower to address the dramatic increase in workloads. Mike Schmidt's office recently hired 4 new prosecutors and 2 investigators for gun crimes.
So bringing in additional resources to spread that workload around not only allows us to kind of allow people to spend more time on their cases, work with victims, but also aid law enforcement in making connections that might not otherwise have been made.
Schmidt says this year his office prosecuted over 200 gun-related cases. Portland police have also added detectives to investigate shootings. Next month, the Bureau launches a new patrol unit that will focus solely on preventing shootings.
Yeah, Deb, she's a nurse, so she needs to get home for her shift. She tells me her Alaska flight was supposed to get in to PDX today, but Alaska canceled it more than 24 hours in advance. She says the airline wasn't able to rebook her until next week. Even more than that, though, she says that Alaska told her to postpone her travels until January 16th. That is 2.5 weeks from today. Instead, she was able to find another flight through Southwest, and now she's hoping to get back to PDX by Monday.
It's been a hectic week of holiday travel. Winter weather and Omicron staffing shortages delivering delays and cancellations all across the country. According to FlightAware stats on planes leaving, entering, or traveling within the U.S., there were about 1,500 cancellations Monday, 1,300 Tuesday, and the problem persisting into midweek. By midday Wednesday, almost 1,000. Brian Humphreys was here at PDX on Sunday when his flight to Boise got canceled.
I was in line for probably an hour and a half to get help for that.
His airline couldn't reschedule him until today.
What did you do with your extra time?
Hung around with my cats a bunch.
Just yesterday, Alaska Airlines canceled 170 flights, saying flight issues will continue until tomorrow. The airline cutting Seattle departures by 20%. Alaska says the weather, displaced staff and planes, plus Omicron's impact on staffing are the issues this week. The company is now asking people with non-essential travel to postpone their trips until after New Year's Day, saying what Brian dealt with, a 3-day delay, will be the reality for many others.
Now, the Port of Portland says most cancellations that people are dealing with at PDX are due to bad weather elsewhere, like Salt Lake City and Seattle. They say PDX has only accounted for a few slight delays, and that is because of the de-icing process.